Hey everybody! Well, today we're going to take a look at this cool kit from Ugears. Now this is a Fishbowl, and it's a wood kit. I've built many of these kind of kits before, but these are always so fun. So you're going to build the whole fishbowl here. And then what's really cool is you got a couple of fish in here, and I'll probably paint these guys. I think that'll look pretty cool. And there's a mechanical device in here so that when you wind it up, the fish will go round and round inside there, and their tails will wag. I think their whole body kind of turns. So that's really cool. On the back of the box here, you can see where you wind it up. Looks like there's quite a few parts to this. This might be kind of technical. Now, what I like about this is the device to wind this up. I think it's some kind of a spring. You're not going to use rubber bands, which is great, because if you saw the video where I built that wood turtle and you wind it up very similar to this, it used a ton of rubber bands inside there, and that thing already broke. It was like 6 to 8 months later, all those rubber bands completely dried out, and they all broke, so that turtle doesn't walk anymore. And so that was a real bummer. So I'm glad to see they're getting away from the whole rubber band thing, because that's very old school, and by now they most certainly would have something better. So I'm curious to see what kind of mechanism they're going to use on here. Alright, well, let's take a look at what the parts look like. Alright, so here are all the parts to this kit, and there's a lot. So let's start with this section here. So we can see that there's some round parts here, which is probably part of the base. Going to be a lot of gears and mechanisms in here. This is going to be a pretty complicated kit. Look at all these parts. Oh my gosh. They're all numbered, thankfully, but that is a lot of parts. Oh my goodness. Okay, and here's some more over here. Wow, look at that fancy stuff going on up there. Nice scroll work on some of this stuff. There's a shorter panel of parts right here. And I think there's some plants in the middle too, so that's really neat. We can paint those some green colors. There's some more parts for the outside of the bowl. These are probably the fishbowl pieces right there. It's kind of cool how they made a frame for that. Here's some more of this. That looks like the fish's face is right there. That's pretty neat. So now, okay, so I was very disappointed to see these. There is, in fact, a couple of rubber bands in here. Just for any of these companies that make these wood kits, if you're watching this video, please get away from these. These rubber bands are terrible. They dry out, especially for those of us that live in a dry climate like where I live. These will dry out within 6 to 8 months, and they'll break, and then they'll be no good. So really disappointed to see that. And also, these are really low quality rubber bands, so they don't last anyway. So yeah, I was disappointed to see that. But here is the spring mechanism. So this is what they need to stick with, and it looks like there's another rubber band in there that's probably going to break as well. So I'll probably get about 6 to 8 months of usage out of this, and then that's it. It's really unfortunate. There's some sandpaper, and then also the wax crayon for lubricating the parts. So it looks like it's going to be a really cool set. I mean, it'll be fun to build, but it's just unfortunate that because of those rubber bands, I'll probably not get a very long time to mess around with it. Alright, well, I guess I'll get started on this, and then I'll show you any cool stuff that might be along the way for the build. Okay, so this is what I've got going on so far. So we're working on the base. Now this is where that spring tension piece goes right there. And it's kind of tricky putting this part together because you have to sandwich a lot of stuff in between there. And then when you put this final top piece on, you got to try to put it on, but you got to match everything up while you're pushing this on. So these pegs have to go in these holes. You got to make sure that's in the middle. You got to make sure that's in that little slot, and this one here. And this is the trickiest part because the spring here wants to keep pulling that in. So you're trying to hold this down while you're trying to push all of that. So it's kind of a tricky spot. Another interesting thing is one of those rubber bands is actually to make the rubber feet on the bottom here. See that? So you actually cut the rubber band into little 20-centimeter segments, and then you wedge it in between where the legs go right there, and it makes this kind of non-slick surface, I guess is what the point of that is, which I thought was very interesting that they used that. So good, I'm glad that that rubber band isn't being used for an actual mechanical thing. There's the wind-up dial. That's where you're going to wind this up. So yeah, I'm hoping that that other rubber band isn't going to be used for anything mechanical either. So that was good. At least I don't have to worry about the rubber band's drying out and this not working. But very cool so far. I'm loving it. Okay, so I got a lot more stuff going on here. Now, a correction about those rubber bands, it's 20 millimeters, not 20 centimeters, so I messed up there. But now, take a look at this. This is an incredible amount of technical stuff going on here. You've got things that are going to probably flip back and forth right there. All these gears, this stuff going on here. This piece is going to stand up more like this. I mean, there's a lot going on here. And then some of these pieces, I will say that they don't come off the sprues as easily as, say, a Roker kit. So you have to kind of be a little more careful when you're popping those off, because sometimes it'll chip the piece. And another thing is some of these parts fit so tight that I'm going to have to recommend that you get one of these little hammers. I got this from one of those Book Nook kits. It came included with it, and this has been quite handy. As you can see, I've used quite a bit of it there. But it comes in handy for, like, you know, hammering certain pieces in, because they're really hard to squeeze together with just your hand. Sometimes you just can't get it in there. You're going to have to do, you know, like when you're sandwiching something that's over a long piece like this or something. So just as an example. But yeah, so have a hammer like that handy. Now this part is not going to be easy. You're going to have to put this ring on, and it has to go specifically this way, so that Ugears thing is opposite of where the wind-up mechanism is, and you're going to have to get all of this on here. Now, I hate this kind of stuff, but it's where you have to get all of these little posts here. Those have got to go into these holes, and you got to go all the way around. So you got to make sure they're all in there properly. And then these holes here are for those two things right there, including this piece right here. Okay, and then what else? That little thing right there has got to go through this hole. So you're going to have to line it all up. So you're trying to hold everything together while you're trying to push it all together. I'm not fond of that kind of a thing, but it seems like that's kind of a, whenever you have a big piece like that. So it's going to be a bit of a fight, but hopefully I can get it on there. But I just wanted to show you all of that, because it's probably going to be hard to see once I start getting it all covered up. Okay, so this is pretty cool. Look at this elaborate bit going on here. So now this is going to be the front of the fish, and this is how the fish's body turns. Look at this. See how these move like that? That is really cool. So you got to wax the heck out of these pieces, and then this thing I think slides back and forth. And it's very specific where that post goes up inside there, but this is really neat. I was wondering how that was going to be done. Alright, so yeah, once again I'm amazed at the engineering of these kind of kits. Okay, here it is all complete, and this looks really cool. I'm actually very surprised at how nice it looks. It's got really nice details and everything going on. Now, I have to say, mine doesn't work. You know, somehow I probably did something wrong. Now, I'll show you what I'm talking about, but I think for mine, it seems like the spring just isn't strong enough to make everything move. Now, it does move if I manually turn the wind-up mechanism on the bottom, but I have to do it manually. It doesn't. It's like the spring just doesn't have enough clout behind it. And even when I was testing it out early on in the build, it didn't seem like that spring was very strong. I was kind of questioning it, because, you know, it's got to move everything in here. It's got to move the fish and also the little green plant area. So I'll get some close-ups of this, but as you can see, I did end up painting the fish, and they look really nice if you paint them up like that, even though they have a bit of a skeletal look to them. Also painted the plants green, and I'll get a close-up in there, but there's actually a little seahorse in there too, which I think is really neat. And the fish move really nice, the way the tails and the head kind of flow back and forth. Alright, so let me show you what it looks like close-up. So everything does go together pretty well. There are some sections, as I mentioned, that are kind of tight. I like this nice decorative area that they've got going on down here. The whole thing has got a nice decorative look to it, and that goes all the way around the bottom. And then there's all the mechanisms that are in the middle section there with all the gear work. Now here's the first fish. So I used some red, gold, and blue on him, and he looks pretty cool. Just kind of do your own thing. I added a little splash of purple on his tail right there. And, you know, it's pretty neat. I just used some craft paints for this. But it does gussy them up a little bit. I think they look a lot better. Here's the other one. Originally I had this guy as yellow, but the craft, you can see a little bit of the yellow right there. But the yellow craft paint I was using just really didn't seem to do a very good job of covering everything. So I ended up using copper instead, because I just think metallic colors always look cool. And Then we also have some purple and blue in there, and a little splash of yellow. Looks really neat. I painted their eyes silver. And the mechanism in there, they work really well. It's just unfortunate that the spring, like I was mentioning. So let's see, where is that spring mechanism? Well, I'll show you the bottom of it, and I'll show you what I mean. But here's the middle section. You got these cool plants that are in there. I used two different shades of green to make those look really nice. And let me see, can I get there's the seahorse. See him in there? It's a little seahorse. I used two shades of brown on him. It's kind of neat how they got him hidden inside there. Alright, so let me show you the mechanism on the bottom. So let's take a look at what's going on in here. So you can see here's the wind-up mechanism. Now the coil, or the spring, is all wrapped up on this particular one. Now there is a little switch right here. See where it says stop and swim? So you put it on stop when you're winding it, and that's to keep the thing from running while you're trying to wind it up. So here's the wind-up mechanism. So now as we're winding this, like here, you can see that the coil, or the spring, goes from this spool to this one. So you'll see see how it's starting to build up on that one. And you got to wind it up quite a bit, and you can wind it up all the way, and it winds up very easily, and everything inside here moves really good. And I went through and I loosened anything that was too tight in here. I kind of redid some spots to make sure that things are not dragging on each other, and there's really no reason why this shouldn't work. So let me go ahead and wind it all the way. Now as you're winding it, this spool is emptying while that one is filling up. So you'll see when this is full, you'll see the bare wood under that one right there. And there's quite a bit. I mean, you can wind it up quite a bit here. So let me get to the end of this. It's kind of hard to do sideways like this. Alright, so right there. Now see, we're at the end of the spool here. You can see the bare wood, and you can see where the spring attaches right there. Alright, so now all the tension is over here. So now when you flip this over to swim, these guys should start moving around, and they don't. Now I can kind of shake it a little bit, and they'll kind of start to move a little bit. Or if I give them a push, you can see that they kind of start to move, but there's just not enough tension on that spring to make them move. It just I don't know what's going on. It's just like there's not enough power behind that spring. Well, my hand's kind of getting caught up on the gear there, but so what I end up doing is if I turn it manually the opposite way. So here, I'll show you. Let me back up a little bit here. Okay, so let me turn this opposite. And now you can see they turn just fine. See how they're moving just fine now? There's no obstruction or anything. It's very smooth. I just really can't figure out why I'm not getting the power behind this spring. But you can see they move really good. Look how cool those fish move. See how they wag their tail? And see how their head bobs back and forth? It's very, very cool. I'll get a better angle of this. I'm just kind of trying to show you. So everything works fine in here, but it's just that for whatever reason that spring is just not strong enough to push this. And it's about as loose as I can get it. I loosened everything in there. So yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on in there to make that not work properly. So looking from the top here, you can see how this moves. So you can see how the fish look like they're swimming in there. See how their bodies move? The tail flaps and the head kind of bobs. And they kind of go in opposite of each other. So like when one's head is out, the other one's head is in. It works really cool. I mean, I think it looks really neat the way this whole thing operates. And considering the whole thing's made of wood, it's a pretty decent mechanism going on in there. You can see how the middle plants kind of spin where the seahorse is. So yeah, I really like it. I just wish that the spring was stronger. So here's a side view of what they look like when they're turning. So you can kind of see how they swim like that. It's pretty cool. I do like the way they move. I just wish the spring was a little stronger. I kind of think this would have been better as maybe like a wind-up thing, like maybe have a crank that you just turn on the side here. I think that would have been better. I do appreciate the fact that they're trying to get away from rubber bands, though. The only rubber band that's in this is, where is it? Let me get this fish out of the way right here so we can see it. See that rubber band right there? that is there for the tension for this switch, for the swim and the stop. It somehow put some tension on there. That's the only rubber band that's on there. So that's good. I mean, I'm glad to see they're getting away from that. Those rubber bands dry out and they don't last long. But yeah, I kind of wish this was a crank thing. That would have been much better. But it's not a complete loss. I mean, it's still pretty cool. And if you paint these guys, they'll look really good. You can go completely all out. And looks like I'm stuck on something there. You can go all out and kind of make them look the way you want, customize them. It's kind of neat. Makes them look pretty cool. So there we go, the mechanical aquarium from Ugears. I think this is a really nice set. If you decide to get one of these, maybe you'll have better luck with it. I really tried looking to see what I did wrong. I went over the instructions 8 or 9 times and made sure I did everything right with those gears and the wind-up mechanism, and I still can't figure out what's going on. I mean, everything's loose enough that it should work, but oh well. I got this on Amazon. It was $63. Maybe it'll be on sale if you're looking at it, and it's a pretty fun kit. So I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in it. It turns out looking pretty good. Alright, well that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'd very much appreciate it. And until the next time, I will see you again. So thank you so much for watching, and have a good one!